Once upon a time, in a small, weathered cottage at the edge of a village, lived a young boy named Jack and his mother. Their life was a simple one, but recently hardship had knocked on their door. A long, harsh winter had left their pantry bare, and their only remaining possession of value was their dear old cow, Milky White. One morning, Jack's mother looked at him with sad eyes. "Jack," she said, her voice trembling slightly, "there's nothing left. We have no food, no money. You must take Milky White to the market and sell her. Get the best price you can, my dear boy. Our survival depends on it." Jack felt a lump in his throat. He loved Milky White, the gentle cow who had been his companion for as long as he could remember. But he knew his mother was right. With a heavy heart, he put a rope around Milky White's neck and began the long walk to town. He hadn't gone far when he met a peculiar old man leaning on a twisted staff. The man's eyes twinkled with a strange light. "Good morning, young lad," the man rasped. "And where might you be going with such a fine cow?" "I'm on my way to the market to sell her," Jack replied glumly. The old man chuckled, a dry, rustling sound. "Sell her? A magnificent creature like this? I have a much better offer for you." He reached into a small leather pouch and pulled out a handful of beans. They weren't ordinary beans. They shimmered with a rainbow of colors, as if they held some inner magic. "These," the man whispered, "are magic beans. Plant them tonight, and by morning they will grow right up to the sky. They are worth far more than any amount of money you'll get at the market." Jack stared at the beans, mesmerized. Magic beans. The thought of such an adventure was far more exciting than a few gold coins. Forgetting his mother's instructions completely, he eagerly traded Milky White for the handful of colorful beans. He ran all the way home, his heart pounding with excitement, eager to show his mother their newfound fortune. When he burst through the door, shouting, "Mother, look, magic beans!" his mother's face went from hopeful to horrified. "You foolish boy," she cried, her voice filled with despair. "You traded our only cow for a handful of worthless beans. We are ruined." In her anger and disappointment, she snatched the beans from Jack's hand and threw them out the window into the garden. Jack, heartbroken and ashamed, was sent to bed without any supper. He cried himself to sleep, believing he had made the biggest mistake of his life. But when Jack woke the next morning, something was different. The sunlight filtering into his room was a strange, leafy green. He rushed to the window and gasped. Where his mother had thrown the beans, a colossal beanstalk now stood, its trunk as thick as an ancient tree. It twisted up and up, piercing through the clouds and disappearing into the sky, just as the old man had promised. Forgetting his hunger and his mother's anger, Jack was filled with a sense of wonder and determination. This was his chance to make things right. Without a second thought, he ran outside, grabbed hold of the thick, sturdy vine, and began to climb. He climbed for what felt like hours, past the rooftops of the village, past the birds soaring in the sky, and into the cold, wispy clouds. When he finally pulled himself over the top, he found himself in a land unlike any he had ever seen. The clouds formed a soft, white ground, and in the distance stood an enormous castle. Its towers so high they seemed to scratch the heavens. A wide, paved road led straight to the castle door. Jack's stomach rumbled loudly, reminding him just how hungry he was. Mustering his courage, he walked up to the colossal front door and knocked with all his might. The sound echoed like a drumbeat. After a moment, the door creaked open, and a giantess, a woman so tall her head was leveled with the clouds, peered down at him. "Well now, what's a little fellow like you doing all the way up here?" she asked, her voice surprisingly gentle. "Please, ma'am," Jack said, his voice trembling. "I'm terribly hungry. Could you spare a piece of bread?" The giantess smiled kindly. "You poor thing. You look famished, but you must be careful. My husband is a giant, and he loves nothing more than to eat boys for breakfast. Come in quickly before he gets back." She ushered Jack into a kitchen so vast that the table was like a mountain and the chairs were like towers. She gave him a large hunk of bread and a mug of milk, which felt to Jack like a whole loaf and a bucket. As he was eating, the whole castle began to shake. Thump. 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 The ground trembled with heavy footsteps. "Quick, hide," the giantess whispered, her eyes wide with fear. "My husband is coming." She lifted Jack and stuffed him into the cool oven just as the giant strode into the room. The giant was a terrifying sight, with a tangled red beard and a booming voice that shook the very foundations of the castle. He sniffed the air, his nostrils flaring. "Fee-fee-fo," from he roared. "I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive, or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread." "Nonsense, dear," the giantess said, trying to sound calm. "You're just smelling the stew I made for your supper." The giant grumbled, but sat down at the table. After he had devoured his massive meal, he called out, "Wife, bring me my hen." The giantess brought in a small, plain-looking hen. The giant slammed his fist on the table and commanded, lay. To Jack's utter amazement, the hen laid a perfect, solid gold egg. The giant laughed, pleased with his treasure, and soon his head began to nod. His snores were like thunder rolling through the sky. Once the giant was fast asleep, Jack crept out of the oven. This hen could solve all their problems. Seizing his chance, he snatched the hen, tucked it under his arm, and scrambled out of the castle. He ran as fast as his legs could carry him, slid down the beanstalk, and landed safely in his own garden. His mother was overjoyed to see him alive. When she saw the hen lay a golden egg, she hugged Jack tightly, all his foolishness forgiven. For a while they lived comfortably, selling the golden eggs and never wanting for anything. But Jack was a curious and adventurous boy. The memory of the castle in the sky lingered in his mind. He couldn't resist the urge to see what other wonders it held. So One morning, he climbed the beanstalk again. This time, he snuck into the castle garden and hid until he saw the giantess come out. He slipped inside behind her and hid in a large copper pot. Soon the giant returned, roaring his fearsome rhyme, "Fee, fee, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman." "You're imagining things," his wife insisted. "It's just the leftover roast from yesterday." After his supper, the giant called for another of his treasures. "Wife, bring me my golden harp." The giantess brought in a beautiful harp made of polished gold. When the giant commanded, "Play," the harp began to play the most enchanting melodies all by itself. The sweet music soon lulled the giant into a deep sleep, his snores once again shaking the room. This was Jack's chance. He tiptoed out from the copper pot, grabbed the magical harp, and made a dash for the door. But as he ran, the harp cried out in a loud voice, "Master, master, a thief is stealing me." The giant awoke with a furious roar. He saw Jack escaping with his harp and scrambled to his feet. Jack flew out of the castle with the giant's thunderous footsteps close behind him. He reached the beanstalk and began to slide down as fast as he could, the harp still clutched in his arms. He could feel the beanstalk swaying violently as the giant started climbing down after him. "Mother, mother," Jack yelled as he neared the bottom. "Bring me the axe, hurry." His mother, hearing the urgency in his voice and the tremendous rumbling from above, ran out with the axe. The moment Jack's feet touched the ground, he grabbed it from her. With all his might, he began to chop at the base of the massive beanstalk. He swung again and again, but with a tremendous crack. The beanstalk began to teeter. The giant, seeing what was happening, let out a final, terrified roar. With a groaning, splintering crash, the magical beanstalk came tumbling down, bringing the giant with it. And that was the end of the giant. From that day on, Jack and his mother lived in peace and prosperity. With the hen that laid golden eggs and the magical harp that played beautiful music, they were never hungry or sad again. Jack had been foolish, but he had also been brave, and his adventures had brought them a fortune far greater than he could have ever imagined. Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey up the beanstalk. If you enjoyed this classic tale, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more amazing stories. See you next time.